The Transportation Security Administration says it screened more than 5 million people over the Memorial Day weekend. With passenger numbers rising quickly, the next few months will be challenging for travelers. The TSA workers, airports and airlines, and with millions of people flying for the first time since the beginning of the pandemic, they're going to experience a different kind of travel experience due to the many new safety and security measures that have been put in place. Joining me now with more on what you need to know and should expect if you are traveling this summer is former assistant administrator at the TSA and executive vice president of Bethesda-based K2 Security Screening Group, Steve Karoly. Steve, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, I mean, like many people, ready to travel. We're kind of getting out of this pandemic, and it seems like the whole world, the whole country is, with looking at those numbers. What are some of the things that you might expect when you go to the airport this time around?
Well, let's start off by saying that when you're going to the airport, you want to make sure you're there in time to not have a stressful event, right? You want to get there early enough. So, you know, pre-pandemic, they had 2.5 million passengers daily flying. We're at 1.8 million. So instead of the 2 hours, but maybe you need to show up at 60 to 90 minutes ahead of time to get through. When they arrive, passengers arrive, you're going to see some changes, like when you first show up at the ticket checker. Normally, the ticket checker grabs your license and your IDs, as well as your ticket itself. You don't do that now. You'll end up using technology that the passenger will actually insert their ID into the technology and get through that process. Another change is different technologies are screening the bags. What passengers should do is put their extra personal belongings in their carry-on bag, so that there is only one bag going through or two bags going through rather than all the individual items through the system.
So based on what you're saying there, what are some things that people perhaps should or shouldn't do in order to make that process go by more smoothly?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so first, there's pre-check. So if you may want to enroll in pre-check, because then you can leave your shoes on, you leave your belt on, you leave your jacket, that kind of thing. That'll save you some time. Second item is you have to dress for success, if you will. So don't have baggy shirts, don't have lots of jewelry, big belt buckles. Third, you want to be able to put all those items, like I mentioned before, into your bag before you even get to the line going through. Your wallet, your watches, your jewelry. So that all you have to worry about is that one carry-on bag rather than all the individual items.
People are hearing these enhanced security measures because of COVID and other factors, and they might be thinking, you know what, I want to hold off on travel because I don't want to go through all that hassle. Do you suspect that this will go away anytime soon? Or will this be the new norm? Yeah,
no, well, I think some of these items to trying to limit the touch between, or the friction between the TSO, the Transportation Security Officer, and the passenger.
Yeah.
They're trying to limit that. So some of those technologies will be there even after COVID. And I will tell you, as more and more people fly, more and more people will get used to how these technologies and more changes in the process and procedures will work at those checkpoints.
You mentioned more and more people flying. Planes are more packed. Of course, the middle seat now is available for everyone to sit in. Do you think that makes people less safe? Do you think that there's anything that they can do to make themselves feel a little safer?
Well, not at all. I think the air on a plane, I don't know, there's lots of studies that have been done. The air in the plane is as good as air in an ER room in a hospital, for example. So what's happening is they're processing the air. They're getting fresh air brought into the airplane 4 or 5 times every 15 seconds. So that it's very hard for the pathogens to we'll say, find its way into a person. So it's very safe. The flights themselves, as well as the airport environment.
I do want to ask you, Steve, really quickly, for the parents out there, if you've got children, what are some things that you should know to make it headache-free, at least as much as possible?
Yeah, well, one thing is, if you are a pre-check member, you can bring your children with you in that pre-check line. So that's very helpful. And second, I would say is, again, go back to dressing for success. Make sure that the kids have all their stuff, put it into one bag so it can get screened very easily. through the process.
All right. A lot of this has to do with maybe not preparing morning of, perhaps a little earlier the day before. So I'm preaching to myself on that one. Steve Karoly, former assistant administrator at the TSA and executive vice president of K2 Security Screening Group. Thank you so much for your tips and insight. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Janet. Appreciate you having me.
Of course.